AI can now outread you, outremember you, and outresearch you instantly. And you can feel it. A dozen tabs open, 3 half-read articles, a brain that's full but foggy. Not more input, not more tools, not more speed. The one move that still makes you valuable is the opposite of everything you were trained to do. Get worse at doing more. We were sold the opposite our whole lives. More information, more skills, more input, and now, in the age of AI, that flood is infinite. A machine can hand you more knowledge in 1 second than you could absorb in a year. So here's the uncomfortable truth. When everyone can access everything, knowing more stops being an edge. The advantage moves to something far rarer: the ability to choose what to ignore. That sounds small, it isn't. In a world where every answer is one search away, the winner isn't the person with the most answers. It's the one who asks the sharpest question and refuses to be pulled in 1,000 directions before they find it. Today, we're breaking down how the sharpest minds use subtraction, not addition, and why less is about to become the most valuable skill you can build. 1. Subtract your inputs. Most people try to get smarter by consuming more. More podcasts at double speed, more newsletters, more scrolling, quietly rebranded as staying informed. It feels productive. It even feels responsible. But consuming information and understanding it are not the same act. One fills your head. The other changes your mind. And your attention is a fixed budget, and every input spends it. Back in 1971, the economist Herbert Simon said it perfectly. A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. He saw your phone coming 50 years before it existed. Think about that. The problem was never a lack of information. It was a flood of it, drowning the one resource you can't buy more of. So the smartest move in a world of endless content isn't reading faster. It's cutting harder. Choosing a few deep sources and ignoring the rest on purpose. Try this. Cut your information diet in half and spend the freed hours thinking about what you already took in. Insight doesn't come from the next article. It comes from sitting with the last one. 2. Do one thing at a time. We treat multitasking like a talent. It isn't. When you jump from one task to another, part of your mind stays stuck on the first. Psychologists call it attention residue, and research by Sophie Leroy found it measurably lowers your performance on whatever you turn to next. And it isn't a small tax. Researchers have estimated that constantly switching between tasks can cost you up to 40% of your productive time, nearly half your day, lost not to laziness, but to the act of switching itself. You answer one message in the middle of a task, and for the next several minutes, a piece of your mind is still writing that reply while your eyes only pretend to read the next thing. You're never fully on either thing. You just feel busy. Real thinking happens in single focus, in that boring stretch where one problem gets your entire mind. It feels slow. It's actually the fastest route there is. Try this. One task, one tab, one window, until it's finished. Every time your hand reaches for something else, that reach is the enemy. 3. Go deep before you go wide. The internet rewards dabbling, a little of everything, mastery of nothing. But depth is where the value hides. When you push past the surface of one subject, you start seeing patterns that beginners simply can't. And those patterns quietly transfer everywhere else. That's why the most adaptable people almost always mastered something deeply first. Think of a chess master. They don't see more pieces on the board than you do. They see fewer things, because years of depth taught their brain to compress the chaos into a handful of familiar patterns. Psychologists call it chunking. That's what depth actually buys you. Not more information, but a mind that can hold a complex world in a few meaningful shapes. Depth teaches you what real understanding actually feels like. And once you know that feeling, you can move into new fields fast, because you know when you truly get it, and when you're faking it. Start narrow. Go deep. Expand later. A mind that has gone all the way down one well learns faster than a mind that only ever splashed in puddles. Wide is cheap now. Anyone can skim. Deep is what's become scarce. 4. Say no to almost everything. Warren Buffett is often quoted saying the difference between successful people and very successful people is that the very successful say no to almost everything. He once described it with a simple image. Imagine you had a punch card with only 20 slots, 20 decisions for your entire life. You'd think hard before spending one. You'd let 1,000 good opportunities pass to protect the few great ones. Steve Jobs put it another way. Focus isn't saying yes to the thing you work on. It's saying no to the 100 other good ideas. And that's the trap. It's easy to say no to garbage. What drains the sharpest minds is all the good options. Every yes is a silent no to depth somewhere else. So smart people guard their attention like it's the rarest thing they own. Because it is. Time you can borrow back with a late night. Money you can earn again. But attention spent on the wrong thing is simply gone. And no one hands it back. Quick gut check before we go deeper, because this next part exposes almost everyone. Right now, how many browser tabs do you have open? And how many half-finished things are quietly running in the back of your head? Drop the number in the comments, just the number. It's a snapshot of how divided your attention really is, and it's usually higher than we admit. Now, let's keep going. 5. Protect the deep block. Focus isn't a switch you flip. It's a state you have to defend. The great thinkers didn't grind 16 hours a day. They protected a few undisturbed ones and let the rest breathe. Darwin did his serious work in short, fiercely guarded windows and walked the gardens the rest of the time. Cal Newport built an entire framework around this and called it deep work, the ability to concentrate without distraction on something genuinely hard. His argument is simple and a little scary. This skill is becoming rarer and more valuable at the exact same time. Rare and valuable, that's the literal definition of an edge. And the strange part is that this edge is open to almost anyone. Not because it's hard to understand, but because almost no one is willing to be that bored, that undistracted, for that long. Try this. One 90-minute block a day. No phone, no notifications, one hard thing. Guard it like an appointment you would never cancel. Because in a distracted world, that block is where you pull ahead. 6. Chase one thing, not a list. Here's a strange piece of history. In his book Essentialism, Greg McKeown points out that the word priority came into English around the 1400s, and for the next 500 years, it stayed singular. It meant the single most important thing. Only in the last century did we start saying priorities, as if you could have 10 first things at once. You can't. When everything is a priority, nothing is. The sharpest people quietly refuse the list. They pick the one thing that matters most this season, and they let it bend everything else around it. A dozen half-pursued goals will always lose to one goal pursued with your whole weight behind it. Ask almost anyone who built something that mattered, and they'll tell you the same thing. The hard part was never finding good ideas. It was killing the good ones to protect the single great one. Try this. Ask yourself a brutal question. If I could only accomplish one thing in the next 90 days, which one would make the rest easier or irrelevant? Then treat everything competing with it as noise. 7. Let the machine handle the shallow. Here's where all of this collides with AI. A machine can now do the shallow work, summarizing, searching, drafting, remembering, faster than you ever will. So competing on volume is a race you've already lost. But there's one thing AI still can't do. It can't decide what actually matters. It can't taste. It can't tell you which question is even worth asking. Hand 100 articles to a machine and it will summarize every one of them. It will not tell you that 98 of them were a waste of your time. Knowing which two to actually read, that's a human call, and it comes from taste built by depth. That judgment only comes from a mind that has gone deep and thought slowly. So the people who win with AI aren't the ones using it to do more. They're the ones using it to clear away the noise, so they can pour themselves into the few things only a human can do. So let's name the shift honestly. For almost all of history, the advantage went to whoever could gather and remember the most. The person who had read more, memorized more, collected more, that person won. That world is ending in front of us. When knowledge is infinite and instant, hoarding it is worth nothing. A hard drive can hold more facts than you ever will, and now it can talk back. Trying to beat a machine at holding information is like trying to outlift a forklift. You will lose, and exhausting yourself in the attempt is the real trap. The new advantage belongs to whoever can subtract. Cut the noise, ignore the irrelevant, and pour a whole mind into the handful of things that matter. Focus was always powerful, but in the age of AI, focus stops being a productivity trick. It becomes the last real edge that's still yours. Because being smart was never about how much you could hold. It's about what you're willing to let go of. Every input you refuse, every task you drop, every good idea you turn down, that isn't you falling behind. That's you clearing space for depth. And depth is the one place a distracted world can't follow you. Look at anyone whose work you actually admire, and you'll find the same quiet pattern underneath it. They went deep on a few things and calmly ignored almost everything else. In the moment, it never looked impressive. It looked like missing out. It was the opposite. The world is going to keep shoving more at you. More content, more tools, more noise, forever. It will call that progress. And the sharpest thing you can do, quietly, is choose less. Not because you can't handle more, but because you finally understand that less is where the thinking actually happens. But focus has an enemy I haven't named yet, and it isn't your phone. It's a habit hiding inside your own head that pulls your mind apart even in a silent room. That's exactly what the next video breaks down. So subscribe and stay for it, because protecting your attention is worth doing right. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what's the one thing you're going to focus on? And what are you finally saying no to? Naming it out loud is where it starts. In a world begging you to want more, choosing less is the sharpest move you'll ever make.